There we go. So good morning. Doug and I were just talking about, how are things going and that sort of thing. So I wanted to basically share a war story. I find that, my war stories tend to have some value. So that's why I like talking about it. A number of years ago, when I was Enterprise Service Desk Program Manager, I got word that the CIO was traveling up to New York to talk to the New York IT support team. It was like 5 or 6 people up there, 3 of which worked for me. In other words, I was they were contractors and I was their PM. So literally the night before, I figured out how to get to New York ahead of this guy, and I jumped on the very first Amtrak as the train opened in Maryland. As the station opened, they unlocked the doors, and I was standing there, and so I jumped on the Amtrak, came all the way up to New York, hustled across the street to the Federal Building, and got in, made my way in there, said hi, and then sat around for a few hours, working with the guys who were there. But then the CIO arrived, and it was really interesting because he had seen me. We had been in meetings before, etc., but there was really no name recognition or anything. He just knew that I was there. I believe he knew that I was ESD program manager for the service desk, but that's as far as it went. Well, when he showed up, he was, walking through the suite, and there I was standing there in a suit, and he looked at me and he said, "You're not supposed to be here." And I said, "I thought it was a great day to come to New York and visit." And he laughed. And so then, we went through whatever we were doing, but he was there to speak to the New York IT team. So at one point, he brought them all into a conference room and asked, supervisors and leads and that sort of thing to be there as well. So I was there. And the team was at a table, and all the leads were sort of lined up on the back wall. There were only like 3 of us, but anyway, the CIO started off, and he talked about how things were going to be changing, how we were going to be going through what was called shared services, consolidating a number of the IT roles and responsibilities within our federal department, etc. And New York was going to be one of the first to do this. And he said it was his plan to go around to all of the various regions and tell them personally about this, but he also wanted to get some ideas as to the people that he was working with. He had never met most of them, and so he literally wanted to go onto a road trip and talk to all of the regions. And I thought that was, very, very commendable. But he went through, and this is I think the important part for us to remember. He said, "I want everybody to introduce yourselves. Tell a little bit about yourself. Tell, why you're here. Tell what interests you." In other words, he wanted to understand the personalities of the people that literally we all worked for him. Everybody in the room worked for him. And he started off and he said, "My name is," and he gave his name, and he said, "I'm a 2nd generation from, my family we're immigrants. We came over from Europe." And, he talked about him, the person. And, okay, that was really nice. It gave us an idea to the personality behind this CIO. And that was really nice. And then he started to go around the room asking people, "Tell me about yourself." And the people basically fell into 2 camps. One was, "Tell you about me as a person," and the other was, "Tell you why I'm here doing IT." And I will tell you that of the 2, me, the person, generated more interest from the CIO than me. I've been here for 4 years. I've been doing IT. I work in this particular area, and I like doing stuff, having backups or whatever. That wasn't what he was there for. He was not trying to gauge the skill levels of the people that he was talking to. He wanted to know the personalities behind our skill levels. Well, the reason I say that is, got all the way around the room, and most, I would say many of them were like, yeah, I'm an IT specialist, I come into work early and this sort of thing. And they were devoid of personality. And the CIO politely listened to them all. But then it got around to me. And I said, hi, I'm Scotty Ward. I'm the Service Desk Program Manager, and I love IT. All of a sudden, ears started to perk up. I said, I've been doing it for nearly 30 years, and it is still so exciting to me that it gets me out of bed before my alarm goes off in the morning. I love doing this, and I can't imagine doing anything else other than IT because it's so fun, it's enjoyable, it's rewarding, and I get to go home every night knowing I have done something to improve my federal department as well as make the world a better place. That was it. I didn't say, well, I've been doing this, and I worked here, and I sat here, and I obtained my skills through this. No, I said I love IT, and sure enough, when things got back to the way they were, and I ended up back in D.C., and the CIO ended up back in D.C. For the following year or so, whenever he'd see me out in the hallway, he'd go, Scotty. Name recognition. And it was a happy Scotty, not just Scotty, So then later on, maybe 2 years later, I interviewed for a position, and he was the last person that I interviewed with, him, the deputy CIO, and the chief of programs, and we sat in the room, and we all knew each other. We had all worked with each other. We were aware of each other and each other's personalities and strengths and stuff. I didn't have to go through that again. And it was really, really interesting to understand that your personality, even in a highly technical career field like this, your personality is what people look for. I used to word it this way when I was interviewing to hire people for the Enterprise Service Desk. I said, I can teach you all the skills that you need to be great at this job, but I can't teach you to be nice. I can't teach you to have a good attitude. It's not always about the skills. Your skills and your personality combine to make you an asset to your employer. So that I thought was helpful to understand. When people say, how are things going? I always try and project something positive. Why? Because later on down the road, they could be interviewing me for a job. And you want to be somebody who walks into an office, and when he walks out at the end of the day, that office has been made a better place. So always try and remember that people are not only evaluating you technically, but they're evaluating your personality. And I don't mean that to say you're under the gun, but if you have an opportunity to be positive, be positive. That makes sense, guys?
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So, sorry to get straight into this. Any of you guys have something to talk about this week before we step off into the topic that I had laid out?
Something I would bring up. I think something I would bring up, Scotty. I like your be positive attitude. It's one of those great attitudes to have, and it also shows that you're still passionate and love for the career field. Mm-hmm. And that positive mindset is contagious. It can be it could be transferred over even when IT has its worst of times, mm-hmm. or if you're struggling and you're going through a tough time. That drive to go to the computer and go and say, I love IT, I love IT, I love IT. Great. Mm-hmm. Yep. I had a call a couple days, actually a day ago, yesterday, and I was on a pressing deadline. That was the one assignment we've had, Scotty, about the laptops, that off the record. But another person from another part of our agency called me, asked me about why I was doing a switch from the in-use and inactive laptops. And I said, hey, this is an assignment I'm doing. I showed him what I was doing. He was wondering why all these in-transits were coming into his queue, mm-hmm. because I changed away from the in-use and inactive per what our bosses are trying to get us to get doing. Right. But I flat out told him, hey, if I'm doing something wrong, let me know, because I want to do the right thing. And mm-hmm. the other colleague goes, no, I just want to know what was going on. That's all. Mm-hmm. And keeping that positive attitude and positive mindset rather than grumbling and grunting and being confrontational, mm-hmm. that's a good thing to have. Just a good thing to have is to be welcoming, being open, and being glad at what you do, and I'll have that mindset of actually doing the right thing. Right. I'm going to ask you, Douglas, for some experience there. But before I forget, remind me about Mark Mead. So, Douglas, what do you have any experience about where even an IT or a technical workspace type environment was made better or worse by people's personality, not their talents?
Yeah, I had an instructor when I was learning to fly. So that he was not only the instructor, but he was also he was the owner of the school, and he was very talented. First of all, everybody saw him for training. This guy was from Pakistan, and he grew up, I think, in the UK, but eventually came to the States, and he just learned to fly. He was working in the building, in restaurants, that industry, and eventually learned to fly and left it all. He just went to create his own school, and he struggled, but at first, and then eventually he found the right people. But everything about this guy was his attitude. Every day, every single day in the morning, you could hear him with his typical, "Good morning to you, Scotty. Great morning to you, Scotty. Great morning to you, Douglas." And everyone he met, he would talk to, like that. Mm-hmm. And so that definitely created an atmosphere, kind of like set the tone for the day. Mm-hmm. Even under very difficult circumstances, he was always, you never saw him worried. Of course, he got concerned. He had a business, but he was more about solutions than, complaining and all that. And I think that was part of his success, because his school had a great success. He has not only the people from here in the States, but he had a lot of people coming from all over the world. He had people from Spain, people from India wanted to become airline pilots, and so on. And but it was, I do remember the first couple of times that I saw him, and he came to me and said, "Hey, happy morning to you, Douglas." And I said, "Boo," because I thought he was just, but no, this guy was every day, every time until the last day that I saw him when I left Florida. So, it was very, I always remember him, very well in good spirits, and mm-hmm. and I remember the effect that he had. So, at times I have remembered him myself when I have been in situations where I wasn't very happy. And so, yeah, he was a model. I think a lot of people found him as a good model.
Mm-hmm.
To be around.
Excellent. Here's a thought that just came to me about this in reference to sitting in some sort of a work group. Let's say you're sitting in a cubicle area or whatever you want to call it. All things being equal, presuming that everybody has similar technical prowess, who do you want to sit next to? So think about it that way. Are you someone that people want to sit next to? Or they're, I'll go sit over by that guy or whatever. Some people have attractive personalities. And in certain terminology, that's known as charisma. Charisma literally means a gift. So, are there people that when you interact with them, your day gets better, And if that is something that you do, maximize that. If that's something that you are still not quite sure of, work on developing that. It's not just about being a super techie. I'll give one more example, then we'll talk about Mark Mead. One more example. We interviewed, there was literally about 30 people we had to interview for a set of vacancies, IT vacancies that we were getting ready to fill, and these were nationwide. In other words, we were interviewing people from one end of the country to the other. And we got some great personalities, we could see enthusiasm in them. Some of them, all we saw was technical. I do this, I do this, I do this. I'm really good at this, I'm really good at this, I'm really good at this. And we were all like, yeah, okay. But talking the other end of the spectrum, from the positive to the, let's say, not positive, there was one person that by all accounts, this job was hers. The vacancy was designed to be just above her. She had been in a particular position at a particular level for so long, her management literally designed another position for her to move into. But because it had to go through the bid, the interview, the evaluation process, she was there with 20 other people competing for the same job. The job was hers, depending upon the outcome of the interview. I have no doubt of that, because the guy who designed the position was one of the interviewers with me. And, when it was all done, he literally did a face plant and said, I don't believe that this just occurred after the interview. Because during the interview, we got to that one final crucial question. And you guys all know what that crucial question is. What is the last question you're asked in an interview?
Do you have any questions?
No, not that one. The one just before that. You're right, Chris, but the one just before that.
What was the other question that we usually ask before that?
What?
You know, Doug?
Why should we hire you?
Yes, why we should hire you.
Okay.
In other words, here's your opportunity for your elevator pitch. Your 30 seconds of fame where you get to bang your own drum and say, here's why I'm your best choice. Well, this person, when we got to that question, said, well, I'm a hard worker. I think I've done pretty well. It was like the difference between a raw pasta noodle and a cooked pasta noodle. She's like with a cooked pasta noodle trying to show that she has some structure, and we didn't see it. We didn't hear it. All we heard was, you should hire me because I've been here long enough that I deserve to go up. Not that I'll be a benefit to you if I do, but just I deserve this position because I'm a hard worker. Well, here's the challenge you run into. If you have chosen all the right people technically, they all should be hard workers. So that doesn't differentiate you from anybody else by being in an interview and saying, I'm a hard worker. This person literally had the interview in a bag depending on that final question, and she failed it miserably because she basically said, well, I'm a hard worker. And that was it. It was like, huh? We got all done. We were like, okay, well, thank you very much. You know, have a nice day. Why did this person literally give up her opportunity because she couldn't show ambition, she couldn't show some personality, she couldn't show a reason why the organization would improve if they hired her into this position. It was just sort of like, well, I've been here, you know, X number of years, and I'm a hard worker, and wow, standing next to, you know, these other guys who have, you know, 6 certifications to your none, degrees to your none, you know, whatever, skills to your, you know, sort of learned skills on the job stuff. These folks marked all the check boxes and came across as being, you know, I'm your pick because you're going to be happy you hired me because this is what I bring to the table. And this person was, I'm a hard worker. Failed miserably and was not selected and is still stuck in the same position she's been in for years. And I'm sure she feels unfairly. But when you have the opportunity to toot your own horn in that particular situation, not when you're coming to work in the morning saying, hi, everybody, you know, the Superman has arrived. You can all, you know, put down your pens. You know, you don't do that. But why it's important that I'm here. I feel my value, I understand my value, and I want you to understand my value. So that's really, really important. So let me talk about Mark Mead. This was in the Pentagon. And the reason I love talking about Mark is he and I worked together for a number of years. Tremendous respect for this guy. And also, he had a vanity license plate in Virginia that was exactly the same as my vanity license plate in Maryland. And we didn't know that each other had those plates. They both said, email me. Email me. It was cute. Anyway, so that's how I remember Mark. Mark was an individual that had a series of certifications, including Microsoft. And we were encountering something that was killing us. It was literally a virus or something that caused these Windows computers to not be working right. And finally, nobody could work their way through it. And finally, we started looking around saying, who's certified? Who is certified? In other words, who can help us out of this mess? Who has the best chance of doing this? And Mark was certified. And I remember we all backed away from the chair, and Mark sat down at the chair with this circle of people around him, and he went, this is why I got certified. And he jumped into this, and he figured it out. But I remember he rubbed his hands together. In other words, like, here we go. This is the exciting part about the boring stuff of certification. And he just had a blast with it. And we all learned certification does mean something right there because he did it. So anyway, it was his attitude that was so fun.
Was it a virus in the end, or what was it? A configuration problem?
No, I think it was a patch that was pushed that caused certain capabilities to be inhibited, and we couldn't figure it out because it literally was a registry issue, and he got down to the point where he was interpreting registry keys to where he actually found what this thing never said it did, but it did.
Okay.
I think that's what it was.
One thing I got from your story, Mark, about Mark, is he went into certifications with the right attitude. I want to know what I want to learn about Microsoft. He didn't go, I want a certification. He and go through dumps and study guides and try to memorize facts and all that.
Right.
He had a passion for learning what Microsoft wants him to learn. And that's the certifications in the end. CompTIA, ISCs 2, EC Council, all those folks have this groups of people that come in and say, hey, how do we feel that when we make this credential, what should that certified person know how to do? Can be experienced on what to do, hands-on, when it has to be called upon it, that we can put the designation of Security Plus or CISSP. They go through that list of topics. Mark, your friend Mark, took that as, these are the list of things I want to learn and know how to do because that's going to make me better, rather than get the piece of paper that says I'm Security Plus.
Right.
And I think that's the desire that all, if you want to get into cybersecurity, that's the desire you should have. Much less look at the job ad and say, oh, they want a CIS. Okay, let me go ahead and study the CIS.
Right. Right. Very good point. And here in, for example, this mentorship program, we're not here to teach the technical things that you need in your job. We're here to teach you, the attitude that gets you focused on attaining those technical skills. We want to encourage you. We want to help you. We want to give you that drive, that hunger, that feeling that what you do matters. That honestly, if you don't have that, you're going to find IT to be incredibly obtuse and worthless. It's sort of like, the old shows or stories or stuff about the guy who arrives and all he does all day long is stamp papers or whatever. Well, that's not what IT's about. If you do that, you're going to end up getting burned out because there are going to be challenges, there are going to be requirements, there are going to be situations. Good morning, Harminder. There are going to be situations that require you to think in manners that previous people may not have thought. You've got to get creative, and your creativity may not be flowing at all if all you're doing is stamping paper, reading logs. Okay, I didn't find this error message, so we're good. That's not what IT's about. That's not what cybersecurity is about. Because what happens when you run into something where your CIO or CEO says, you're not going home until you fix this? Yeah, I don't care what we have to spend. We're losing millions until you engage. And all of a sudden you find yourself in a friction situation without having that push-through personality that says, oh, whatever comes, it's transitory. It's going to go away after a while, and I'm going to be able to go, spend time on my boat on the lake, or whatever. so that you work your way through it. But if all you think of is, doing my IT job, it could kill you. It could run you to the ground. So yeah, it's important to have that attitude. Why what I do matters. Yeah, very good. Thank you, Chris. So good morning, Harminder. Anything to talk to us about this morning? Anything on your mind?
So right now I'm thinking if something comes up, I definitely let you know. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thanks. So this morning I shared this in our Facebook page in the last week or so. I hope you had an opportunity to read the article. I do apologize. Some of these articles that I pull up are full of ads, and pop up this and pop up that, and you can't get rid of this little video of somebody talking or whatever. I apologize, but that's what comes with free resources. Somebody's got to make money off of that. So this one was particularly challenging, but in the midst of it all, the important thing that I saw was a reference to security operations centers. And I'll summarize the article, but the first things first. I went and I looked through the Security Plus study guide that I have, and there is literally nothing on security ops or on security ops centers. Nothing. And I was like, holy smokes. They tell you about the career field. They tell you all the technical ins and outs and the tools and that sort of thing, but they don't tell you about where you could be working. So that's what this is going to be about, security operations centers. So let me just go to the next slide. A little bit about SOCs, as they're called. Security operations centers are typically the nucleus of what's known as security ops. Now, what I mean by that, for those of you who aren't familiar with the career field, the cybersecurity career field, it's basically, and I say basically, in two main areas. One is called security operations, and those are the people that are trying to make sure that stuff doesn't occur right now. And then there's another group called information assurance. And the information assurance, those are the ones that are doing security reviews, that are doing auditing, that are doing going out and trying to get money, for example, etc. Those are the folks that they usually go home at night and on the weekends, and their job will be waiting for them when they arrive in the morning on Monday. So information assurance are the folks that are trying to make sure that the CIA triad is maintained, etc. But security operations are the people that are there going, ooh, something just happened. I just got an alert. This firewall just keyed me in that something's happening, or this mail filter just tripped. Something's up. We need to go investigate right now. Okay, so that's the difference between the two. And that's why I said it's where most operational work is. And frequently, SecOps, or SOCs as they're called, are 24/7. For larger organizations, your SOC will be 24/7. You could end up working the midnight shift. Yes, Harminder.
Okay. So I understand your point. So you say SOC is 24/7. So what they do they have any application software? It is monitoring automatically. So there is some physical, and they're watching the traffic, what is incoming traffic and what is outgoing traffic on the monitor. So that I just want to clarify.
Yes, that's right. And frequently, network operations and security operations are co-located. In other words, they're both in the same place because frequently they use similar tools. In other words, what I have up on my wall monitor is of value to me in SecOps as well as somebody over in network operations. Okay, so frequently you'll hear NOC SOC. Network Operations Center, Security Operations Center are one and the same. Now there are going to be network operations people in there, Cisco focused or whatever focused, as well as your security ops teams. So, it's not the same person doing both bits of work unless it's a small organization. But it is quite possible that your 24/7 network operations and 24/7 security operations are co-located. Thirdly, and this is probably a minor concern, the service desk operations may also be there if it's a 24/7 service desk. It's possible that your service desk is also in the same place. But yeah, that's where you see, like in the movies and stuff, somebody has a screen up on the wall and all of a sudden something goes from green to orange to red. That's security operations. Okay? Make sense? Okay,
thank you.
Sure. Now, here's what the article was pointing out. They said because they're having such difficulty hiring skilled workers, because the actual technical IT landscape is becoming more and more complex because of the inclusion of cloud, the inclusion of well, in some cases, multiple operating systems. You're now supporting Windows as well as Mac, maybe even Linux. That makes things ultimately far more complex. And also the increased attack surface, because you're now doing cloud resources. You may have incorporated things like Doug pointed out a couple months back, your fish tank thermometer is now on the internet. So IoT capability has to be incorporated into this, so you have what's called an increased attack surface. There are more places where somebody can come and attack you and infiltrate your infrastructure. So what's occurring is, because things are becoming more complex, requiring more skill levels, and there are fewer people available to actually do this, these SOCs are outsourcing more. Chris?
I'm actually, while you were chatting, I saw the hiring difficulty, and I did an Indeed search of SOC analyst, what the normal job title would be. And some are very interesting to read. I am just a general SOC analyst. They're looking for not necessarily entry-level folks. They're looking for more people of security plus nature, what we're studying with our outside of this realm here. But I've seen other SOC analyst ads that would sit there and say they want 3 to 5 years experience immediately off the boat, and a CISSP or greater certification. So I'm wondering if that's part of the trouble, the hiring difficulty is they want that real experienced person, but it comes to chicken and egg scenario. And I'm sorry if I'm starting to sound like the guy going, there is a bug, there is a bug, there's always a backdoor, there's always a backdoor here. But I'm wondering if there's a chicken and egg scenario going on as well, and want to get that thought process going. Yeah. And what your thoughts about that is.
Good point. The idea that IT expertise or cybersecurity expertise is consistent is totally incorrect. One IT specialist and another IT specialist could have vastly different skill levels. So that's what the interview process is designed to point out and differentiate between the two people. So yes, it's important that you get into your interview, but also you need to, have those skills to make things happen once you're there. The important thing is, and I'm going to get to this, you may say, well, in a SOC, they need people who are hotshots, people who are really good at doing this, and in the middle of the night can sit there and stare at a monitor or work logs or whatever by themselves. They're self-driven. There's a personality trait that's not technical. They're self-driven. Why? Because I don't want to hire a supervisor to stand there over you and say, did you check the logs? No, you got to do it yourself. So guess what? Self-initiation, a soft skill, is what makes for a good SOC analyst, especially in a 24/7 work center. Now, I'll get to this in a minute, Chris, but your point is well taken. Most SOC analysts, as you're looking at it, are expected to arrive with their own set of skills. Fully agree. But because they're outsourcing both the individuals and the tools. And that's why I was going to talk about this, because, and let me just go to the next slide, you should consider managed service providers or tool providers to be looking for new people to hire as well. In other words, if you can get an entry-level job at, I don't know, Cisco or Splunk or, at the tool provider, you can end up working your way into a specialist position there that makes you ideally suited for a SOC. And also, you arrive with the skills that they're looking to outsource anyway. So they're trying to get more capability. Let's call it capability, because they're not just talking people. They're talking ability to keep my infrastructure secure. That's either done through personal resources or tools. So maybe they haven't been able to afford this tool that does everything, but because they're having trouble hiring, they have to invest in the tool. When they do, it's a brand new tool. Nobody on that site knows about this tool, or very few. Oh yeah, I've read about it, but that's not the same thing. So guess what? If you are working there for that managed service provider that uses that tool, you have just built your expertise because you went with the managed service provider instead of the security operations center. You'll get there at some point because they're looking for your expertise, but you got hired and trained into the tool rather than the center. That's where I'm trying to go with this. So let me point this out. What it takes to work for an MSP or a tool provider, you got to be good at sales. Why? Because sales are what drive the MSPs. Sales are what drive the tool, not capabilities. You got to be able to help increase the corporate bottom line. Okay? So if you don't like sales, this is not the way to do it. But if you're good, like it says, at sales and interpersonal skills, you walk into a room and people like you, you've set yourself up. Yes, Harminder.
Yeah. So I like your points that we have to increase the sale. But I know that I am capable, but I can't do myself. I also need a support for my team members. I also need the guidance for my team leaders to give me a right direction, see what I have to do, what steps I have to take to increase the sales and do the right things.
Very, very good point. Now, let me go back to the mindset of an IT professional. I believe, with 31 years of experience, I sort of have that down. I have an understanding. Many IT professionals don't like to talk to the customers. Okay? So guess what? That makes your good interpersonal skills higher value. Okay? If you are friendly, if you are personable, and you are able to do things like sales, that differentiates you from, I'd say, over half the IT field already. Even if you don't have IT skills. See what I'm saying? So you can balance those two. If you don't have, let's say you go apply for a job, and I'm just using this because they're like the monster in the industry. You go for a job at Cisco. The first thing they're going to ask is, do you have Cisco certifications? Well, hopefully, if you are researching Cisco, you have demonstrated that by going out and trying to get some Cisco certifications. Even older ones will show your intent. But then, that establishes your technical baseline. Yeah, your skills are just enough to get you in the door. But that's where your attitude takes over. That's where you can show them, yeah, I sold, millions of, tools, hardware. I worked at Builder's Emporium, whatever you want to call it. Here's one from me, my history. I can point out that when I worked for CompUSA, I was involved in their a sales campaign, a corporate sales campaign that was the biggest sales campaign that they had had to date. And in 2 weeks, I personally sold $1.2 million of product and services from CompUSA through their corporate sales. $1.2 million flowed through my desk. What was I at the time? I was a help desk guy. But the corporate sales guys were so busy, corporate government sales were so busy, they brought me on to answer the phones for their Fannie Mae promotion. They told all the employees at Fannie Mae, they got together with Fannie Mae and said, if you give them payroll deduction, they can pay it back at 0% interest. This is a perk that you're going to give your people. And we will set up CompUSA, a dedicated phone line, a dedicated set of catalog tools that they can buy immediately using this, whatever you want to call it, this perk from CompUSA. It's already done. They say, I'm a CompUSA employee. This is my employee number. I want to buy this. Done. Because it had already been arranged with Fannie Mae. And I sold $1.2 million, call after call after call after call. All day long for 2 straight weeks. I was going crazy taking sales because it had all been arranged by the technical guys, by the skilled guys. But I can say I sold $1.2 million worth of goods from CompUSA. See what I'm saying? It's not always the skill set. It's being in the right place at the right time with the right attitude. I was help desk. And yet I can say I helped CompUSA in their biggest corporate sales campaign to date. This was 1992, 92, 93, whenever it was. They had never sold that much on one phone line in a 2-week period before. Chris.
One of the videos I watched, Eric Cole is a CISO. He's reporting that when all these companies are going to remote work, your technical skills are not going to be into good use. He was talking about security people becoming help desk people to support the people who are remote working, just pretty much becoming help desk. And you take it as a demotion, which is fine. You take it as a demotion, but I'm going to say something else. If your company's survival is to sell products, guess what you're going to do? You're going to sell products along with your technical expertise as well.
Skills are in high demand everywhere. So if you arrive at your interview with that in mind, you have a step up on your interviewer, because you are a resource, and they are hungry for resources. So and I've seen this time and time again. They say, well, if this person meets the minimum technical qualifications, we can train them. But you know what? You got to be a nice person. You got to be somebody that shows that it's going to be an easy thing to train me. And the moment I walk in the door, dude, I'm bringing donuts or whatever, to where they know that you are automatically an asset to that group. Even if it's just bringing donuts, I don't care. The point is, it's an all-around thing. It's not, they don't evaluate your technical skills against somebody else's technical skills and make their decision. They use a whole person concept when they're evaluating. And it becomes even more important during this time when people are looking for new jobs. People are quitting right and left. So they want to find somebody who's, good to work with, is going to increase the I'll call it the happiness level in this organization, and they're durable. They're going to stick around. That's not, like I said from the interview before, that's not, I'm a hard worker. That's not going to get you anywhere in today's interviews. You got to show that the world's going to be a better place if you hire me. Your world is going to be a better place if you hire me. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, one other skill that I wanted to talk about that IT people frequently have difficulty with, and that's the ability to focus down onto a single tool or a certain set of tools, because IT people are constantly learning. So sometimes what you want is a generalist type position, but specialists are the ones that get the higher rates of pay. Specialists and engineers are the ones that can literally, I hesitate to say it, demand their own price because nobody else knows this tool like I do. And I can demonstrate that not only through my resume, but when you talk to me and you start asking me questions and I come up with answers that not even you knew. Make sense? So that's one of the challenges, is the ability to focus down and say, I'm going to become the best at this. For some technical people, that is, you're putting a collar on them, saying, what, I can't work on this? Nope, you got to work on this. Why? Because I hired you for this. So for some people, that they consider that to be limiting. Make sense? So if you've got great skills, if you've got great interpersonal skills, and you are able to just take one thing and run it to the moon, then you could end up working for an MSP or a tool provider to support these security operations centers that are outsourcing. That's where I'm trying to go with this. This is a new idea for where you can apply for jobs, because they're looking. Why? Because their sales are going up because these SOCs are outsourcing more. That means they have a greater need, and because of the skills gap that's going on, it's everywhere. It's not just in operations centers, it's in the tool providers as well. So this could be another opportunity. Don't just look for, I want to work in an IT shop for, Nabisco or whatever. No. What about the tool that you love so much? Splunk, I use that as an example. But, what if ServiceNow or, any of those modern day cloud-based tools, why not?
What about Kali Linux, for example? Would that be one of them? Kali Linux, yeah.
The important thing to remember with the various Linux flavors, I guess I'll call it, usually your organization focuses on one particular Linux. And usually that is an enterprise Linux. It's not a workstation Linux. So because Linux works at both the workstation and the enterprise level, you could have Linux as a server, you could have Linux as a workstation. If you are looking for a Linux, now you can certainly cut your teeth on Kali. You can certainly cut your teeth on many, many other variations of Linux. But the beast in the enterprise workforce is what? What's the Linux beast that everybody has or wants?
Red Hat.
Exactly. Okay, so if you're going to shoot for the moon, Red Hat's the one to work with. But Red Hat now costs money. So Kali's free. Why not start there and build your understanding using a free tool, and then somebody says, well, you don't have Red Hat experience. No, but I've been doing Kali for 2 years and I can run rings around most other people in the Linux environment. That says something, because those that work Linux understand that Linux and Linux are very, very similar. Regardless of the wrapper that's on it, they all have the same basic Linux kernel and a set of libraries and tools. Then they just have these variations that say, for example, Kali we set up to do this, and Red Hat we set up to do this. But you can learn using any Linux. Yes, Doug.
Yeah. I've also heard that one thing that a lot of people do in order to get their hands wet, their feet wet, it's to practice with using CentOS. CentOS, they say it's like the same thing as Red Hat, but without the logos, and it's the free version. That's what I've heard about Red Hat. So a lot of people are looking into CentOS because of that. Yeah.
Good to know. I don't know anything about CentOS. Chris?
Resume trick for everybody. When the announcement says Red Hat, write down what the Linux thing like write down Kali, and then put in parentheses a Red Hat equivalent. That way you're not lying. That's why you're not lying in the resume, but you'll still catch the word of what they're looking for, and you're not lying on your resume at all.
Right. The hiring manager may have a gap in their skills knowledge when it comes to Kali or CentOS or whatever, because they just learned Red Hat. And it may be your opportunity in the interview to point out that the differences between your skill area and what they're looking for, so you can easily cover that gap if they hire you. Yeah, that's a good way of thinking about it.
My advice is more to get past the applicant tracking systems and HR.
Right. And when in doubt, just put Linux. And then you get into the interview and they say, what kind of Linux? And you can, show your skills there. Yeah. Yeah. So.
That's a great tip there, Chris. Yeah.
Yeah, good point. So that's about all I had for today. Did any of you guys have anything else? We have successfully used our hour, I think. We had some good stuff to talk about. And again, I think the important thing to remember in the cybersecurity career field is there are vacancies everywhere. So you've got to go out and look for them. Most of the stuff that Chris and I focus on is in government vacancies, so we're talking security operations centers or information assurance shops that are already established, already up and running.
Configuration. Oh, sorry, Scotty.
We don't talk about something that we're building from the ground level up. It already exists. You were saying, Chris.
Configuration management is also in the security area. It's in our Security Plus books, but that's something else we look into. Operations,
Yep.
similar. Yep. Keep going.
Yeah. Kali Linux, for example, has a whole suite of security tools. If you learn those tools, now, here's the important thing to remember. Those tools have both black and white hat capabilities. So you've got to remember that you don't just take your Kali Linux, John the Ripper, and say, I think I'll try this on USPS.com, see if I can down the Postal Service. Don't do that. That's called black hat, and that is ethically the wrong way to learn. You say, gee, I was just seeing if I could do it. Well, yeah, you did it, and here are the handcuffs to show. So don't go there. You can do like Chris points out, you can have your lab, you can have your virtual test environment, your area that is segregated off to where you can play your little war games. But don't just take your regular workstation, throw Kali Linux on it, fire up a tool and say, I wonder what happens if I do this. Because that'll get you in trouble. Yes, Chris?
I'll add on with your home lab, do a YouTube video search on capture the flags. Tons of people who will talk about how to find capture the flags and participate in them and how to do it ethically. Right. They're all over the place on YouTube. Just pick a person and run with it.
Those are modular environments. They're not, they are segregated off from everything else. So if something gets messed up in that, it was designed to get messed up and not cause issues. So yeah, good point. All right, guys, that's all I got for today. I appreciate everybody participating. If you like this environment, if you like the mentorship, please share with other people. We really need more involvement, and like Chris and I point out, we could easily handle 10 times the number of mentees that we have. Easily. Yes, Doug?
I have a couple of questions before we leave.
Sure.
One is I wanted to ask you about the book. I think I did already, but I can't remember your answer, what your answer was. About the book that you showed us. What book is that?
This is the Cybex guide, SYBEX.
Oh, Cybex, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. That was the first question. The second one.
And by the way, it really doesn't matter what guide you pick. They're all good. Cybex, the only reason I chose it is it seemed to be in the middle of the road. It's readable. The guy that teaches it, Mike Chappell, if you want to, he actually runs a separate website called CertMike, CertMike.com, where he helps people, with certification tools as well. And he is a professor at Notre Dame. He teaches cybersecurity at Notre Dame University. So, good resource.
Could you repeat his website?
CertMike, CertMike.com.
Oh, okay. All right. So my other question is that in regards to the meetings, I have invited so many people. So I've invited so many people that, and unfortunately, they don't. I don't know if they don't show up, and I don't know if they just look, if they ever come to the and then just look at the report, the replay or whatever, but they just don't show up. This is I understand the value of it. I see it's a great opportunity. Excuse me, and it's not found anywhere else. And its best is that it's free, and I mean, it's not only free, but it's also all this valuable information with you, with such a career and so many credentials. But my point is, at some point I have thought about when I'm in a meeting and I see a lot of people wanting to get into cybersecurity, and sometimes I wish I had, okay, hey, we have but I don't know if these people are, I don't know them. You're just there with a bunch of people, so I don't know what you think. What is your thought about inviting people like that in a place where you don't know them?
Right. To go back to the sales mentality, if you're asking 100 people, you may get 1 or 2 yeses. You got to be prepared for the 98 no's.
Yeah.
So when it's purely a numbers game. The more people that know increases the likelihood that more people are going to arrive. But you can't just stake your claim on one person and say, I wanted to bribe this guy to come to these things, and in the end he didn't. Well, okay. There are another thing that I will say, a lot of people think that they want to do something, but it's sort of a publisher's clearinghouse sort of thought. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd like to win $1 million, so I buy a lottery ticket. That's not the same thing as what we're trying to find. We're trying to find people who are hungry, who are sick and tired of being a waiter all their lives, who just got laid off by their company because of COVID and are told, sorry, and they're good. They enjoy what they do, and they want to redirect that enthusiasm into something that's extremely beneficial now. That's what we're looking for. We're looking for somebody who's going to jump on this and take it to the moon. Not somebody who, I could either, do this or I could wash my car. Those type of people are, although they are prevalent, they may fall away. They may never benefit from this program. Mm-hmm. So it's the attitude. It's the people that have fun doing this. That's another thing. When you say cybersecurity, they're like, I can't do that. I do.
Yeah.
What does it take?
I do it between two things, Doug. I do a cold invite and what's called a warm invite. And I'll let you in on what I mean by cold invite and warm invite. A cold invite is, hey, I'll just be in general conversation, or I just post it out there saying, hey, I'm here Saturday morning. I'm with Scotty. Scotty's my colleague. He knows cybersecurity very well. If you're interested, you want to come and learn more about cybersecurity and what it has to offer, come join us at Saturday at 9 a.m. Then there's the warm invites. Doug, you were one of my warm invites. Harminder, you were one of my warm invites. Both of you I know will get up at 9 a.m. on a Saturday morning, and you guys are hungry for more cybersecurity knowledge and how to get in. Yes, your goals are to get into that field, but I've identified that you guys have the passion. And that's why I do a warm invite saying, hey, what does your 9 a.m. on Saturday look like? Come on out and join us. We talk about this, and that, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And we go from there.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Cold invites, you're going to get 100. Out of 100 invites, you're probably going to get 2 yes. And maybe they'll last a month or two, a week or two. Warm invites, Harminder, you've been to 3 so far that I've seen from you. And Doug, you've been there. So
thank you very much, Chris. I really appreciate that. I'm very happy for that.
But that's my point is there's warm invites and then there's cold invites.
Now, my question is warm for cold invites, and I was actually referring specifically for cold invites because sometimes I want to spread out the word, but
yeah.
But is it okay if I do it like in such a place? Like I was in a meeting in a webinar the other day. Mm-hmm. And basically, the webinar was mostly a sales pitch, okay? And then one of the tips that they give, because they say they were going to show you everything that you need to get a job in cybersecurity. Mm-hmm. And I was curious about what they were going to say. Mm-hmm. And it happened to be, basically a sales pitch. The only thing that they gave that I think was the most important one, they don't tell you how to do it. They just said you have to think like a hiring manager.
Yes. That
was the most important thing out of all that for free. The rest was a pitch. You got to buy this so you can get your, and I think I'd rather use that money to get my certs if I'm really diligent, right? If I put what it's in, what's needed. But the thing is that there were so many people saying, well, but how do I get, this ended up in just a sales pitch. How do I? But I was thinking I was going to say something, but then the only reason, that's the reason why I'm asking this question. The reason why I abstained is because I wasn't sure, should I invite anyone basically, not even knowing if they're going to be, if they're just looking up to be a black hat or something like that. That was my concern, and that's why I didn't say anything. But I think it would have been, at least someone from there would have found it interesting. But I just wanted to ask you that question in regard to that.
I think that if you're in a conversation, you can share your experience all the time. Not just an invite, but share your experience. In other words, if something's valuable to you, you're going to talk about it. So, guess what? You can call me or Chris. My mentor says da-da-da-da-da. My cybersecurity mentor says da-da-da-da-da. And somebody's going to go, you have a cybersecurity mentor? Yeah. And we meet every week. Or you can say, during our Saturday morning free cybersecurity mentorship webinars, there's a free cybersecurity, that sort of thing. You don't necessarily have to say, we learned about this or whatever. I found great value in this. You share. You just say, my mentor said this, and I thought that this was really helpful. Or, during our cybersecurity mentorship webinars, we covered that, something similar. And what you're basically saying is, I found it valuable. You didn't even have to say it. But it was something that you took with you so you could share it out in real life.
Okay.
So it's not necessarily go and sell this, but talk about it.
For future meetings, Scotty and Doug, remind me about my experience of applying for an NFL CISO job. I have a story about that, but that's later.
Oh, cool.
That's not now. I have a story about that.
Very cool.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right.
But not now. It's a long story.
Okay. And then just to summarize, my concern is if they're either white hats or black hats, they're going to fall off on their own, right? Because they probably won't. If it's someone looking for the wrong things, they won't find out here. They will just leave, right? Because that's not what they're looking for.
That's correct. Typically, gray hats are. Oh, okay. See you, Chris.
Mm-hmm.
Typically, gray hats are those that learn however they can learn, and then apply it, in ethical or unethical ways. That's my concern. The code of ethics that you guys saw on the Facebook page, the code of ethics is drawn almost entirely from the ISC2 code of ethics, which ISC2 are the grantors of the CISSP certification.
Mm-hmm.
So now you got to realize there are black hats out there with CISSPs.
Mm.
They took the program for all they could, and then they went out and now they're hacking banks or whatever. But the point is, if you're going to provide value to the industry, like what I believe I do, you have to say for good. The same thing that we're talking about here that can help an organization could be learned by people who don't have that ethical foundation and could be used against them. It's a tough line to follow, but you've got to follow it, because otherwise you basically say, I don't have ethics, I just have technical capabilities, and I, aim me at whoever pays the most. No, you want to be somebody who makes this world a better place.
Mm-hmm.
Not just somebody who's super duper good at what they do, and one of these days is going to be on the front page of the Washington Post having hacked into Nabisco. No. That's not the type of people I want to associate with. That's not the type of people I want to encourage. I want to encourage people who wake up in the morning and say, I want to make this world a better place. You know?
Got it. Okay, yeah, that was my biggest concern about, not knowing who these people are exactly. But you're saying basically that they're going to be.
They'll be there.
Will, once they see it's not what they want or they're looking for, they just leave.
Yep.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Well, sorry for elongating the meeting time, but at first I just didn't know. It just came up through the conversation. That's how I remember.
Yep.
Thank you.
No, I appreciate it very much, Doug. Okay, guys. Time is well spent. Have a great weekend.